and welcome to You Know How This Ends. I am your host, Anisha Christensen, and this is the podcast where I hope that every time you show up, every time you listen to it, you are reminded that the only thing you have to do to have all your hopes and dreams and desires come true is to not give up, to be willing to keep moving forward, to trust the process, to let go of the hustle and grind, and be open to a better way to do it, knowing that your hopes and dreams are guaranteed. And I'm so excited to be here with my friend Corey Dutton, who I feel like is a beautiful example and literally like the epitome of all of this, all of these things. So welcome, Corey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yes. Oh, me too. When we started connecting, the first time I heard Corey speak, she came and spoke at one of our Creating Her Empire events, and I was like, I want to be her friend.
Oh, when I cried?
Yes. Well, just when you started talking about like the energetics of money and just all the different factors and pieces, not very many high-powered businesswomen like you talk about that or even recognize that. And so just the fact that you were both, that you could cross both bridges like me, I was like, yes, like this fellow sister, right? It just felt so, so good. So tell us a little about who you are, what you do, all the things.
So I've been a private money lender for real estate for 17 years. I've had my own company. I started out doing hard money lending in 2008 when the banks sort of stopped lending. I spotted an opportunity because we were starting to see a wave of foreclosures, and a lot of real estate investors wanted to get into the game and try to buy some of these foreclosures for pennies on the dollar. So I saw that opportunity, and I had a lot of investor connections with investors from a hedge fund that I used to work for. And I started making calls and being like, hey, we've got REOs by the thousands. Do you want to lend on these? And that's how I got started. And here I am 17 years later. My company started out as Private Money Utah. We just rebranded last year to High West Lending. And because we are lending in the Mountain West, so we lend in Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Arizona, Nevada, and Utah.
Oh, amazing. That's so good because I know a lot of our listeners are investors, not just in Utah. So that's great to know that, Utah and the surrounding states. So that's fabulous. So that was one of my first questions, Corey, is how, again, most people feel like in order to start investing in real estate, they have to have their own money. That was my story, right? Yeah. As soon as I have $500,000 sitting around with nothing to do, for sure I'll invest in real estate, right? So how did you kind of gave us like a little nutshell, but you weren't using your own money to start loaning out doing private money loans.
That's right. I now do lend my own money. I put a little bit of my money in, deals here and there. I diversify. Basically, I try to only put 25,000 into each loan so that I can diversify among a bunch of different loans that I do. But I got started with other people's money. People trusted me. I had rapport with them. They knew that I did what I said I was going to do, and they believed in me, and so they kind of went out on a limb with me and started putting their money with me, and then the rest is history. It's I guess there's a verse, I think it's in the Bible, and it's she who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. She who cannot be trusted with little cannot be trusted with much. So
Oh
I
my
sort of
gosh,
built
so
that.
good. So good. We need to find that reference and put it here because that's so, so true. And I love how you said, because real estate investing and really just business in general is relationships and numbers. And
A
people
hundred
like
percent.
how important the relationships piece is.
It is. And character really, I put a lot of emphasis on character when I'm making lending decisions as well. What has this person done? I lend to beginners um, because I look at other things. I look at the character of this person and say, what skills do they possess, or what have they done in their career or their life that could show me that they could carry this out and execute this?
Oh, so true. So true. Again, what have you done? Like that really stands out to me. We're not we're not who, and this is like, even as I say it, I'm like, like there's so many pieces, right? Because you're not what you do, you're who you are, right?
Right.
But also you kind of are what you do, because if you're just thinking about things all the time and consuming ideas and not actually doing anything, then what does that say about you?
Right. Well, and I've loaned to accountants, on their first flips or their first real estate investment, or, contractors or people that, an office manager, I mean, everything, because you can look at those skills that they have to do that job and say, you know what? If they can do this, they can definitely do this real estate thing.
They know how to work, they know how to be accountable. Like you said, they're trustworthy, they have that rapport. That's amazing.
And even, it goes to like I lend to people with bad credit too. Honestly, like I don't have a minimum credit score because and you don't need to have a minimum credit score to be able to do this because, you know, everybody has stuff happen in their life, and there's not one person that's immune from it. You can't escape life, right? And so I don't look at a person's credit score and say, oh, they've had bad problems in the past. Maybe I don't want to lend them money. Because I realize, my own sister has had problems, getting divorced. That ruined her credit. Yeah, that
Yeah,
wasn't her fault.
yeah.
So there's just I sort of see that life happens and I don't that's why I don't consider credit. So if somebody's out there listening to this and they think, well, maybe they're going to think I'm not trustworthy because I have bad credit. Absolutely not.
So true, so true. And that reminder that oh man, okay, we're gonna have to cut this out because okay, what were you saying? No minimum credit score, being trustworthy. Oh, Corey,
The
what was
character,
the character?
having the character and the skills that you've shown that you've proven you have.
Yes, absolutely 100%. Because, and even with, the debt ratio, the debt blend ratio, right? Like some people have a lot of debt because all their money is invested in things. And so that whole, what's that number called? I'm drawing a blank on what that, your
The
debt to income ratio.
DTI,
Yeah,
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 the debt
debt
to
to
income
income
ratio.
ratio. Exactly, exactly. And I was going to have you the REO for our listeners that are new and are not investors. Explain what REO is.
So an REO stands for R is real, and then estate, and then owned. And what that means is when a bank forecloses on a property, it becomes real estate owned. Now it's no longer a loan and a borrower. It's now their asset that they own.
Yes. Good. Thank you. So that, and then the DTI, debt to income ratio, for those of you out there, because when I was first new at this and hearing all these acronyms and stuff, I was like, what does that mean? So you had mentioned, the REO that was happening, and that you were able to help people with, which is so beautiful. How did you choose? I mean, of all the different things that you could do, I mean, you're obviously a very well-educated, awesome, high vibe businesswoman. Why did you choose to go into private money lending of all the things that you could have done?
I, it is something that I used to work for a hedge fund. How I got into it was one of the asset classes that they invested in was real estate, right? And then real estate is then divided into other little small asset classes, and one of those is called trust deed investing or private mortgages and basically debt. And so what that is basically a way to diversify within real estate investing another kind of another level. So they were doing that. They were investing in real estate, but they were also doing trust deed investing. And why does that have that name? Because when you make a loan on a property, your interest in that property is secured by what's called a deed of trust or a mortgage. And so that's kind of how it got that name, trust deed investing, because you're using that instrument to secure your interest in a property that you've loaned on. Well, they did that, and I was fascinated with it. I really liked it. I liked
So good.
kind of the getting people the money that they need, but then also providing a superior rate of return to my investors that were investing in those notes, right? And so by putting those two together, something with that clicked for me. I really liked helping the people get the money that needed it and then also providing that return to those investors that needed it.
Service on both ends. I'd be curious to look at your astrology and human design because there's something there about. Do you know what your astrology or human design is?
I don't. I mean, I'm a Cancer, but I don't know anything much about that. I'm curious about it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we'll have to chat another time about that. So Cancer energy though, that's a very mothering, nurturing, like wanting to take care of people energy. So right there, I'm like, boom, there you go.
Yeah, totally.
So
Sometimes too
fun.
much.
But that makes you, I mean, so you have to find the balance, right? You can't be, a lot of people, Cancer and Libra energies tend to overgive. So you have to find that right balance of what feels good for you, that where you're giving from a full cup instead of draining yourself out and still trying to give, right? A lot of women, that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but so many women, that is why they feel burnt out, is because they're not taking time for themselves. They're doing all the right things as far as like their business and their families and stuff, but they're go, go, go constantly without taking the time to fill their own cup, to do the things that bring them joy. Because and that's one of the biggest things that we as women could shift from, is if we are willing to take time for ourselves and do the things that light us up. And that looks different for everybody. Like I was scrolling through your Facebook feed and I was like, oh my gosh, she's out biking, she's out on the lake, like all these fun things. I'm like, we have so much in common. If those things light you up, then you're getting your cup filled by doing all that. And then of course you also love what you do for your work. So that doesn't even feel like it's draining you. You're just continually giving from overflow. That's where the
Absolutely.
magic happens.
Oh, 100%. Like I think that was the biggest problem is I loved my work so much that for many years that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now I have the balance. I had a friend pass away about 5 years ago. And I had it in my mind, like through your vision board and your intentions and all these things, I had this number. They always say, have a number. And my number was 40 million. I had this number and it was like I was stuck on that, right? And then I had this friend pass away. I'll never forget. We were on the ski lift together and he was overworking himself. And I said to him, he had two young children at the time, a 1 and a 3-year-old. And I said to him, I was like, when are you going to go to Europe with your family and travel? Because his wife is German. And he said, well, maybe next summer. Well, he passed away
Oh,
unexpectedly. And it was just funny because as soon as that happened, there was this huge shift in my mindset. Oh, and the 40 million just went poof.
don't even care. Don't
Like
even.
I was like, what's the point of having this huge portfolio of real estate? What so I can have my name on a building and so a bunch of people can live good lives from what I created? Like that's not a purpose. Like, and so then it shifted from being about money to being about something else. And that's when my life changed. But I never stopped loving what I do, but I had to say, if I got the call next week from my doctor, what would I do? How would I live my life? And
Right?
so then I started living that way. So my schedule, you know, after he told me that, my therapist, I was like, okay, now when I plan my schedule for the week, the first things I put in that calendar are those things that I would do if I got the call.
I hope everyone who's listening is realizing and taking this to heart. What is just what Corey said? What are those things for you in your life? Oh,
Because some
so
people they don't dig deep enough to know because we get so caught up in our work, our kids, our family, and their needs. And we don't even like honestly, I know so many women that I've asked this question to, and they'll go, I don't know.
I know it drives me crazy because I feel like you're this way as well. Like I have so many things. Like my challenge is not enough time to do all the amazing things that I want to do, right? And so when people are like, "Oh, I don't know what I like," I'm like, "Ah!"
Because they lose themselves in it. They lose themselves in the demands of other people and yes, you love your children. Yes, you love your husband, and your family, but you have to separate their needs from yours. And sometimes it takes some real soul searching, some retreats, some inner work, you know, working with someone like you that can help
Thank
these
you.
people kind of pull that stuff out of them because it's not obvious to a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yes. And the fear, and I've talked about this often, but for those in the back who still haven't quite got it yet, I know from experience and I've seen with all the women that I work with, the fear is that, well, but if I take time for me, then I'm not going to show up as a good, like, I'm not going to be a good mom. I'm not going to be a good wife. I'm not going to be a good daughter or a sister or a friend or whatever it is, right? And I have literally found the exact opposite to be true. When I take time for me, then my cup is so filled and my energy is so full that I literally just want to, the word that comes is like just spew out on buddy, don't spew on people. Overflow, right? And I literally the change, and you can ask my husband, you can ask all five of my boys about this, the different mom that I am today after I started taking time for me and prioritizing myself and my care and the things that I love to do and prioritizing that. Not that I am more important than anyone else, but that I am as important as everyone else and I deserve equal time, if not more time, right? And the way that I have shown up now as a mother, oh my gosh, so much more on point, so much more filled with love and compassion and generosity and true joy instead of burnt out, hustled, overwhelmed, frustrated, scarcity.
Yes.
I can see that you totally feel this. Tell us about your side of things.
So I was doing the same. It was when Steve died.
Is
I
this your friend?
Yeah, when he died, I had to search. I started going to therapy, and my counselor was like, "Well, what would you do, if you got the call next week?" And it was really hard for me because I had lost myself so much in my work and my family that I couldn't even think about what I wanted to do. Like if I could do anything, right? And so it took a minute for me to really find that. And so I sympathize with women that are pondering that question themselves and maybe even hearing this, right? Of like, what do I want?
Yeah.
And so I for me, my passion is in the outdoors. Deepak Chopra talks a lot about the infinite creativity of nature and how when you get out into nature and you see these fireflies, dragonflies buzzing around, and you see these bees and all this life and growth, and you're in the forest, let's say, because I do mountain biking.
Yeah.
You're inspired. That's the word I was looking for. You're inspired, and it's in your subconscious mind. You don't need to have these thoughts of, oh, all of a sudden I got this burst of this great idea, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that for me, getting out in nature, that's the biggest thing is wherever I am, if I'm in nature, then I'm happy.
Yeah. And you were talking about like the fireflies and being in that creation energy.
Absolutely. So for me, it's like, I'm really into Deepak Chopra. And there's a book that I've read recently called The Quantum Body.
Okay.
Um,
Write it down. I love Deepak.
and he talks a lot about how like, the infinite consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, right? Um, and there's a lot of different names for it, right? And so, but we are that. We're not separate from that, right?
Oh, we are in God. God is in us. We're all one and the same. And here's like a whole new level. I feel like God, and when I say God, and my listeners know this, when I say God, I think of a male and female deity. So a heavenly father, a heavenly mother. So I often refer to God as they because I see them as two, not just like one person, but like these two personages. But they experience joy through me. They experience like their joy is increased by me and my experiences that I'm having. And so it's like, okay, well, if I want to like bring them more joy, then how can I have more joy, right? How can I, and not just all the fun things, but like true joy.
Absolutely. Isn't that incredible? Like it's, there's a quote by Deepak Chopra where he says, "I take my personal abundance from an infinite source."
Yes, yes, yes,
And it
yes.
sort of opens you up to this because like what we do is sometimes when we're setting our intentions of like, when you're writing these things down or whatever, sometimes you in your mind you like almost question it at the moment you're saying it. Like, is this possible? Right?
The answer is always yes. FY, everybody listening. The answer is always yes. It is possible.
So I think that for me, that's inspiring because there's just infinite abundance that comes from God, the infinite consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And we have access to that at any time, as long as, you know, it's not harming you or others, right? That it's not going to harm you or others. It's not for a negative purpose of evil. You can achieve anything you want because you're drawing that from an infinite
Yeah,
source that is unbounded. And nobody can really see where that comes from because that's the origination of all things. If we knew that, we would know everything, right? And so there's that mystery of where does that come from? And how did it get started? The reality is it doesn't matter, but it's how do you harness that energy and how do you put it to work for you so that you can create what you want, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we just taught a class at the time of this recording. We just taught a class last week, my husband and I, called Faith, Love, and Sex, because it's from
Good.
Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, where he literally like blanket says faith, love, and sex are the most powerful emotions that you can feel as a human. And I would add gratitude in there, but he talks about faith, love, and sex. And faith and love are obvious, right? But sex, because that's creation energy. Sexual energy is creation energy. And when you, to like link it all back together, when you are out in nature, that is creation energy all around you, natural, God-given creation energy. So when you are out in nature, you are surrounded by infinite abundance. I mean, can you count the blades of grass? Can you count the leaves on a tree? Can you count the weeds? Like it is literally infinite. And so when you are out there in that nature, in that vibe, in that true creation, natural energy, and the reminder that nothing in nature hustles or grinds.
No.
Do you realize that? Like listeners, do you realize that nothing in nature hustles or grinds? It trusts. It grows in its season. It rests in its season. It trusts and just follows the flow of life. So, are you a machine that hustles and grinds, or are you a part of nature that has ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and flow with the path of your life?
Yeah, like the grass doesn't try to grow, it just grows, right? Fish don't try to swim,
They
they just
just do.
swim.
And it's crazy. I know it's one thing to say and another to do, and I'm continually so excited to keep uncovering multiple layers of what that looks like because we live in a physical world where physical action is required. Like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
like there's no getting around that, right? And it usually doesn't require as much physical action as we sometimes think it does. Have you seen that in your
It
life?
Yeah, definitely. There's a book that I always share with people called The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. I talked about
Box
that when
Chopra.
we
Yep.
met.
Yep.
And it's by Deepak Chopra. I highly recommend it for anyone. It is
It's just,
tiny.
it's a little, I would say it's a little tiny, easy read. So if
You
you're
can
just
almost do a
starting,
meditation on the book,
yeah.
you know. But there's a chapter in there, and he talks about the law of least effort. It's one of the laws. And it's not that you don't have to take action because you've got intention, right? And then you've got attention, what you put your attention on, and then you've got the action, right? And so you can't just sit around and put a picture of a Ferrari on the vision board and say, I'm gonna have that and not do anything, right? Like
Uh,
you have to set your intention, and then whatever you put your attention on grows and multiplies.
yes.
And whatever you take your attention away withers and dies. And so you have to go through and catalog and say, what am I putting my attention on?
Yes.
And the action that you need to take it will show up. It will
It
appear.
will. And it's usually going to come, like you just what you're saying, in a path of least resistance. One of my favorite things to ask myself is like, okay, I have this new big goal, right? Like, for example, I'm so excited. I want to do this big old event with singing and dancing, not like performing, but like people singing and like using the power of the voice and of music and dancing and
Cool.
creating with our bodies, right? And talking about real estate and talking about money and talking about sex and relationships and all these things. And it's like, okay, I see this big, huge event. And it's like, okay, well, what's the first step in doing that? What's like the first iteration of that even, right? What's the next thing to do to just move forward that feels fun and easy? I don't have to try and figure out, I'm not going to go and book the Delta Center tomorrow, right? But I'm going to start taking those actions that move me forward on that.
And it'll show up. Like, anybody that's listening to this just needs to understand that once you put the intention out into the infinite consciousness or that abundant source we're talking about, the whole universe will rearrange to present that to you. And it's just amazing how that happens. It's like we can't fathom it because our lives are so finite in our
Yes. And our
physical
brains are so
bodies.
finite.
Right. And so there's so many, a lot of us are in bondage in the sense that we're trapped by these lives. There's one saying that I heard is, you know, our lives are like these webs we weave, and sometimes we get caught in these webs. And so that's when sometimes you have to realize when you're caught in your own web that you've created and to say, how do I break out of this and then create a new web? You
And
know? So I think that you've just got to focus on that thing that you want, and everything else will end up showing up magically. And you'll start to see that even in small things like your intentions for your children or your intentions for other people. Like, start with that. Like, when you want to get worried about something, like with your child, for example, you can say, ask yourself, what do I want to happen? And
focus
keep it
on
simple
it.
and keep it broad. And I swear, if you focus on that outcome, that small little thing, that thing will happen. And it's crazy. It's almost like a miracle, right?
Really is. I just actually had this exact experience yesterday. I've been reanalyzing my business and getting rid of things that aren't working, implementing new things, and just kind of this total rehash of how my business is, excuse me, how my business is going right now. And I realized I do really well when I'm in front of audiences. I'm what's called a siren marketer, which means that when people can hear me and see me, that's when my business flourishes the best. And so I was like, okay, like I need to get in front of more audiences. I need to do more speaking gigs. I need to do all this stuff. And we're doing our own events, obviously, but I'm like, okay, I want to be involved in other people's and be able to leverage other people's networks and audiences and stuff. And so my first thought was like, okay, well, I need to do some Facebook posts. I need to reach out. I need to call some people. I need to send some texts. And literally the spirit was like, just wait, just wait. Let it be brought to you. And this morning there was a text from an acquaintance saying, hey, I want to put this event together. Do you want to come and be a speaker? And I was like, oh,
See?
thank you.
That is so cool. I love that.
I know.
Like, well, and there's, in my business, I have a lot of conflict because you've got people with needs for money and you want to help everybody. You can. And you see people in really bad situations that you want to help, but you can't help everyone.
Be discerning.
And it's hard for me because I do want to help everyone, but I sometimes get into situations where I have problems with my borrowers. They're going through problems. There's a conflict, and we're trying to resolve the conflict. And I used to be, rigid like an oak, just strong, where I would say, this is how it's going to be. This is the plan. Here's the solution for the problem. But what I've learned after doing this for 17 years is with anything in life, you cannot, especially with problems, you have to be like a reed
Yeah.
that's in the wind, that moves with the storm and survives. It's flexible. You
Yeah.
can't impose your solutions on problems, right? That oak, because think about that oak. When the storm hits, that or oak is going to crack and it's going to break, right? But that reed is flexible in the wind, in the rain, and
Yes.
it's going to survive. And so this has worked for me magically in my business of solving problems with people. So, for example, if somebody defaults on a loan, and they're going into foreclosure. I used to be like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. Here's the problem, the solution. We're not going to deviate from that. I was rigid and
Mhm.
it didn't work. And now I have this new approach of I'm going to be like the reed, and it works really well because
Mhm.
the solutions then present themselves in their time, and we can be flexible and move with those solutions. And instead of breaking, now we're surviving and we're getting through it. And so it works really, really well.
So beautiful. I love that, Corey. Absolutely amazing. And I love your example of doing that within business and still being successful.
And
Being
it'll work with your family too and your kids. I mean, it really does. It works in all your relationships. Like, because sometimes I think we're taught like you have to be
be
strict,
firm and be strict and be,
firm.
my way or the highway. And a lot of us of our generation, we were raised that way because that was what was accepted at the time. But my husband and I talk often, we're like, that doesn't work with our kids. Like when we've
Oh.
tried to be like that, it's my, and sometimes we do, right? Sometimes it's just a blanket no. But most of the time it's flexible. It's understanding what they're needing. It's explaining where we're coming from. And it's more of a conversation than I feel like anything ever was with my parents. And my parents were fantastic. I had a wonderful childhood. They're fabulous parents, but it doesn't work for our children most of the time. Are you finding that too?
I find that in business, for me with my clients, if I am flexible, that we get through these problems, we get through it. And
And then people come
before,
back. You want to
yeah,
keep working with you.
they do, and they want to recommend me business. And I think that for me and my relationships, I'm the same way as like with my sister. We constantly have conflicts, and it's like I'm flexible like a reed with her. I'm not, because when I was rigid, it never went well with her. And now it's like, okay, I can understand that. Let's work through it. Let's figure out a solution for this.
And it's that being discerning because there are times when you do have to be like, nope, this is my boundary. This is like absolutely no, right? And then there's other times where, like you're saying, be the flexible
And
reed.
you'll know when. I mean, you'll
Yeah.
definitely know when. Like
Yeah.
on my insurance, on my properties, like there is no wiggle room whatsoever because that can result in a total loss to you and to me.
Yeah.
And I'm protecting your investment and ours. And so I have no flexibility on the insurance whatsoever. But then there's solutions to problems. I let you help create that because you're the one that has that problem and I'm trying to help you solve it, right?
That is such a beautiful example, Corey. Like you have the masculine, like holding your boundaries, right? Like, nope, this is non-negotiable. And you have the feminine flow, both of them, right? They're working together. That's such a beautiful example.
Well, I think that's why women do so well in real estate and real estate investing because women can read situations and pick up on nonverbal clues. There's something called spontaneous insight and intuition, and a lot of men don't have access to that. And it's called
They
our
do,
sixth.
but it's not as prevalent or as strong. They
Yeah,
have to work harder to develop it
they do. And so
and have it
women,
more
we
naturally.
naturally have this sort of third eye, which is spontaneous insight and intuition, right? And or their sixth sense or ESP, right?
Yes. That gut
There's a
feeling.
book. I know I keep going back to Deepak Chopra, but there's a book called Super
He's
Brain.
famous for a reason, right? He is who he is with the success he's had for a reason. He's incredible.
And they figured out what ESP is. They figured it out that it's actually happening. Women are getting these certain portions of their brain are lighting up
Yep.
in their when someone's sending them a message, right? And they've actually scientifically proven this. And so women need to really listen to that spontaneous intuition and insight when it comes and hits them. And that's why I think women are exceptional at real estate investing because we can read our contractors. We can feel things and see things and pick up on things that a lot of times men are just like, okay, how much is it?
Yeah. Yep.
you know, and women are like, okay, or you can come into a house and you can feel stuff. Like you get a sixth sense of things sometimes. I know I do, and I can't explain it and I can't feel it, right? But I know that there's something wrong or there's something off. And then, on the other side, sometimes I feel that this is going to be a success when all the deck is stacked
Go
against it.
for it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, no, there's potential here. This is going to be a great investment, right? And so I think women need to follow that more and stop trying to be so pragmatic and reasonable and try to attach a reason for every single thing. Like, oh, that can't possibly be it. Because a lot of times it's your third eye that tells you before you even knew it in your mind, you know?
100%. And when we try to rationalize it or explain it, then we go into our heads instead of being in that space of trust and trust
Right.
is in
And
that.
again, it goes back to that's why I think women are they have a keen um, talent for real estate investing because there's so many facets to it. And women are able to interpret and, find all these different facets and just piece it all together, whereas men get really stuck on the little components. Also, women are really good communicators, and that's one of
Relationships and
the
numbers, right?
Absolutely. You have to, in real estate investing, you have to be a good communicator. You can't shut down. I had a situation where I had to learn a really hard lesson um, about communication. We had a deal and it was an investment, and there were a bunch of us involved in it, a real estate investment. And we found out that one of the partners was committing fraud against all of us. He was stealing money from the project. He was cheating on his wife and funneling money to another project with this woman he was cheating on. And what did I do? I lost my temper with him and I screamed at him over the phone and I let all my emotions come out. And guess what happened? I lost control over him. And so the one thing that I've learned with women is yes, our emotions can be powerful because they can tell us things. But at the same point, if you can't control your emotions in your communications, you will lose control of that situation. And so if you're listening to this, I would tell you that if you ever put yourself in a situation where you've got a bunch of partners in a deal and somebody's done something wrong, you have to play them. Because if you lose control over that person, you lose control of the deal, right? And so I learned that lesson the hard way, and I lost control of that person and I lost control of that deal. And so I'll never repeat that mistake again. I get my emotions in check, and then I go into that call. And if I feel that I'm about to lose control, I'll get off that call because I learned that lesson, and that was a very expensive mistake. So,
Well, and that's something that I learned years ago when we were really heavily into our like learning how to be better parents because things were going crazy. And love and logic parenting. Have you heard of that? Any of our listeners, have you heard of love and
uh-uh.
logic parenting? It's so, so good. And one of the pieces they talk about in there, which is exactly what you're talking about, is when you lose your temper, whether it's with your kids or a client or your network or whoever, when you lose your temper, it all of a sudden becomes about you and they get mad at you and you are the problem instead of keeping the problem focused on them. What are you going to do about that? Like, wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe what are you going to do? And putting all the responsibility on them. When you get mad and lose your temper, now they have you to get mad at, and now they can blame you and shame you. And now that's your problem instead of keeping it on them. You're like
That
nodding.
is so
Yes.
on point. That's great. I love hearing that because I've never heard that before, and that's so helpful.
That kind of explain what maybe happened there in that situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it became about me
Yeah.
and my anger and my frustration. And it wasn't about that. It was about getting control of the situation and finding a solution. And sometimes somebody's done something wrong, but you can't you have to make it so that they don't have egg on their face. Like and they feel that they're getting what they want because if they feel they're getting what they want, then you will ultimately get what you want. And it sounds manipulative, but it's human nature, and it's the
Oh,
way,
it's so
especially
true.
if you have kids, it's not about manipulation, it's about just controlling the situation and keeping it under control, because if you don't and you lose control of it, all hell will break loose, basically.
Exactly. Well, and everybody usually has a really good reason for why they do what they do. Like most people aren't dumb people trying to do dumb things just for the sake of it. They have a good reason. And so it's being able to get in like, okay, what is their reason for why that they did this? How can we help them through that? And ultimately, the truth is that if you can help enough other people get what they want, you'll always have what you want, right?
Like Napoleon Hill said.
Yeah. And that again goes back to what you're doing. You're helping other people get into their properties, get into deals, lend their money, all these things, and then you're being blessed in that process. So it's just this beautiful cycle. And as soon as we can get, like you're saying, stop making it about us and focus on them, whether it's in a tough situation or a good situation or just life in general. So, so
Well,
true.
and like when you're out there doing your real estate investments, or you're doing your business, or you're doing whatever it is that you do, right?
Which, pause
Like,
1 second. I want to just
sure.
reiterate before you keep going. You keep talking about how women are such naturals at real estate investing. And I wanted to say, ladies that are listening to this, are you realizing what she is saying? She is inviting you to come and learn how to be a real estate investor. You are wired naturally for a business like this. So if you've ever been like me, where you're like, oh, that's something I do later, or I don't know how, or whatever, we can help you with that part. We can help you figure out the how. Corey, we can help you find the money. Your credit score is not really a huge determining factor. And if that's not something that you have thought into, or have just like maybe this is the first time that you're even approaching or opening up to that possibility, just let it open up. Just listen with an open mind. Just be in that beautiful space of, well, what if? What if I could? What if I did? What could that look like? And just open to that. So just want to
Right.
make sure we reiterated that. So keep going, keep going.
Well, and what I was gonna say is like whether you're in your business, you're in this real estate investment, or you're contemplating a real estate investment, or maybe you're doing lending on your own, you're doing lending to other real estate investors like I do. What I try to do is like, I try to focus on like with my intention of like, so because what happens is if you think about it, you get bogged down in the daily details. Okay, you see, you have this to-do list, right? And you have all these things, the action, okay, on the daily basis of the, you have your intention, you have your attention on that, and then you have the action, right? So there comes the to-do list, okay? But what you have to do is do not get bogged down on the daily details. So what I've had to train myself to do is if I'm in the shower or when I'm doing my daily prayer or meditation, what I do is I say what the intention is for my business, which is number one, I want to get people the money that they need to do the things they need to do. I want to create a superior rate of return for my investors, and I want to get extremely wealthy and abundant as a result, right?
I love
Right? Keep
it.
it simple because
Yeah.
ultimately, if I focus on just the tasks, I'm not going to accomplish that. Right. And so it's all about the big picture, ladies. Like,
Well, and it streamlines what your tasks are and helps you make sure you're focusing, okay, is this task going to help me and help me get towards that? If it's not, then it's not a priority, no matter what it
no,
is, right?
right, exactly. And so try to keep it broad. Like that's as broad of a stroke as I can get because, sometimes that real estate deal might not close. Sometimes the numbers don't work. And if you sit there and you set your intention on, I want
Like
to,
this bill or this,
I
yeah.
want to, yeah, on this property in Mill Creek, like I want this property in Mill Creek to close, right? You're losing sight of the big picture, right? Because it might not be Mill Creek. And then you're going to be like, well, this doesn't work. Just like that loan that last week fell out. I didn't set my intentions for that loan to close. I set my intentions to get people the money they need, create a superior investment for my investors, and make a crap load of money and wealth as a result, right? And so that didn't fit, and that was gone, poof. And
Yeah.
that's okay because guess what? That deal might have gone bad. And so it wasn't the right deal. And that's what I try to tell my beginners. When people call me, I always tell them, I'm like, because I love working with beginners and helping them, to get the big picture and the next step. I always tell them, don't focus on the individual deal and trying to get that deal so badly because
And
that deal will show up if you just don't grasp, don't try to cling to it. Just let it come. Like I've had some people like they found their first deal after like three deals. They found finally got the one. And then I've had some people for over a year look for the right deal. They send me a deal, didn't work. Another deal, it didn't, and a year went by or longer. And then finally, bam, it hit. And I was like, see, you were patient and it paid off. I have a story about a couple. They'd come to me, beginners, and they were so desperate to get into real estate investing. And I felt it. And I kept telling them and reminding them, like, don't rush into getting into a deal just because you want to do a deal and make sure it's right. Well, they ended up doing a deal that I told them not to do. I ran the numbers and I called them and I'm like, you're going to make $3,000.
not worth it.
Not worth it. You can get a job doing just about anything and in 3 months you can probably make about $3,000 because that's about how long it was going to take them to flip this home. Well, they ended up losing money.
Mm,
And it was sad because they didn't listen to me. And I'm not always right, but I knew that they weren't going to make money on that. And they didn't rely on my expertise and my opinion because they were in such a rush to get that deal. They wanted it so bad that they were willing to ignore all the things. And they lost money, unfortunately. And it sucked because they worked so hard to get to that point, where they had just a little bit of money to invest and they were like, yay, we're going to do this. And so I tell anybody that's listening to this, just put it out there of what you want and the right thing is going to show up, but don't force it.
yes, trust it. Just like my example with the opportunity to speak, right? Don't force it. Don't go out there and try and make it happen. And sometimes there are action steps that we need to take, right? Like sometimes I will go and I will do posts or I will reach out or whatever. But for me, the clear impression on this one was just wait. And so it's being discerning, like what you're talking about, right? Being discerning with that. Oh, I love it. There's so many more things I want to talk about. We're going to have you back on another episode, but this has been fabulous. Corey, what would you say is your kind of overall takeaway with all of this that we've been talking about? If there was one message that you would want to give people as they are entering the real estate investing world, as they are beginning to work with large sums of money, as they are learning to trust their intuition and trust the process? From your experience, what is one thing that you would like them to know?
I would say the number one thing that you can do to get started is networking. Go to events, go to educational seminars, network with people, that other women and other real estate investors, and just learn, and be around because it's that proximity is power.
Yeah.
And it's the mastermind principle that Napoleon Hill teaches about in Master Key to Riches, which is essentially somebody in that room has something you need, or they have the solution to the problem that you have. And when you're dealing with networking in real estate, you've got the money person or other people out there that have money. You have people that have a little bit of retirement savings and they will give you that down payment, or they will give you the money for the rehab that maybe I can't cover. There's a mentor in that room that's done that before and they've seen that problem and they're going to help you. There's an inspector that can inspect that property and meet you right there at that property. You call him or her and say, "Can you meet me here and take a look at this property?" So everything you need is in that group. And so I would say if I could tell anybody anything about getting started in real estate investing, the most important thing is the networking. Get out there and get in these groups and meet people. You can also go on the Facebook real estate groups, and you can find people there to network with. You can pose your problems right there on the group, things that questions you have, and you'll have all these people answering you and reaching out to you to help you. It's amazing.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. I feel like you're such a gem, Corey, with everything that you understand and know about energetics and your common sense, business sense, and just all of your experience and your network and relationships. You are a gem, and I'm so
So are
grateful to spend
you.
you.
I love what you're teaching people. I love how you really embody the networking thing.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that that's why I think you're so powerful is you bring people together. And that's the most important thing in real estate investing is there, I heard this recently. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Exactly, 100%. I share that all the time. Who knows you? We met, right? Go out there and make relationships. So I love, love, love. We're gonna definitely have to have you back because I want to talk about more about the money side of things and more about the Burr method when it comes specifically to real estate investing. So we'll for sure have you back down the road. So thank you. Harvest West, no, High West Lending. How can they
Yep.
find you? What's their best way to connect with you?
So best way to connect with me is you can find me on Instagram at corydutton.lender, and or my website, highwestlending.com.
Fabulous. Go and watch Corey's YouTube, or I guess not YouTube, Facebook and Instagram videos. She does a wonderful job. And this is another piece I want to talk about another time too. You do such a wonderful job of breaking complex ideas down into bite-sized pieces that are easily digestible and understood by people who are just getting started. And I think that's such a beautiful gift. So I'm going to definitely have you back. Thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for listening. I love you all. I love hearing from you. I hear from so many of you so often of how a certain podcast helped you and how you hear my voice in your head when you're going through whatever situation. And that just brings me so much joy. So love connecting with you. Denisha Christensen on Facebook. I am Denisha Christensen on Instagram. You can respond in all the things on the YouTube channel. And yes, and let's get you started, ladies especially, but men too. Let's get you started on your investor journey. Reach out to me and let's just set up a strategy call and kind of see what we could do and how it could help for you. So thank you again, Corey. So happy to have you. Goodbye, everybody. Remember, you know how this ends. You know who you are. You know who you belong to. You know how this ends. Love you. Bye.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm back. I forgot that I totally wanted to invite you right along perfectly with this conversation with Corey to come and check out the real estate investing for yourself. We actually are holding one of the country's most valuable real estate investing trainings right here in Salt Lake City, Utah, October 23rd through 25th in downtown Salt Lake. I would love to invite you to come as my special guest. Come sit by me, come have a VIP lunch experience with me. We have about 10 to 15 crazy successful real estate investors who are coming to teach about all the things that you need to know to either get started, if you're like where I was just a little over a year ago and didn't think that real estate investing was anything in my near future, thought that would be something way down the road, right? We're going to be teaching you how you can actually get started like I did without having your own money and even without having great credit when I first started, which is so crazy. And yet, here I am at the time of this recording. We are just getting into our fifth real estate property in less than a year. So, would love to have you come. Look for the link in the show notes. And if you have any questions or anything about it, please don't hesitate to ask me. So, also, just so you know, there's a regular ticket and then a VIP ticket. And the VIP ticket is what we recommend so that you can come and have lunch with us. Lunch is paid and covered. It's going to be fabulous. So, come and join us. Look for the link in the show notes, and we'll see you there. Bye.